Hey guys, this is Kirob speaking, and in today's little dev update we are going to talk about the first new features after the very first public release of the Unreal 4 version of automation. And as you can see already here, it is exactly how it was stated in the little disclaimer coming up when you enter the game. The next thing we are going to work upon is scenarios, and today we are just going to talk about those. And let's check them out. Well, here they are. These are the scenarios, and as you can see, there are also a few new ones, but these are only engine scenarios, and that's our starting point. First we are going to add engine scenarios, and then we are going to expand that and add car scenarios. And good news, let's just play one and we shall see what it looks like. So this is the first tutorial scenario you all know, and that's a weird engine. The pre-built engines no longer are working and they have to be remade. But not only do they have to be remade, let's just check out what is going on here. So we lower cam profile, something like 70. We need to switch the fuel type to horse piss, and then lower this one until it's no longer knocking. There we go, gold, and this is revving far too high. There we have it. Platinum. Yay, I'm such a good player. Alright, but instead of dwelling upon my success of beating the easiest scenario in the game, let's instead talk about what is going on here with UI and things. So it was originally planned to have the requirements here. As you can see, the requirements for the scenario are indeed popping in as a hover over tool, but it is kind of annoying to always when there are like 3 or 4 requirements and you forgot about them, to always have to go here to hover over. So instead we have improved the UI by, when you're in the scenarios, you get this little top bar here, which by default is open, and the scored stats are shown in here and the requirements are shown there. And as you did see here, they are updating live if you are beyond the threshold. And when you hover over here, you see the various scores for the medals that are required to get those. And this will be beefed up a little. I don't think we need this one anymore. I'm not so sure about. You can comment in the comment section below about many of the questions I'm going to ask you in this very little dev update. So, first question is, do you think this is really needed if this exists? Yes or no? In the left-hand panel with all the stats, we have made it such that the required stats here that are actually scored are highlighted and shown. This is the threshold value, as you can see, 35, 47, and this is the current value of your engine. And they are highlighted such that you don't lose your eyes in this big list of stats, but rather can focus on the main important ones in here. I think that is a pretty good solution overall, and certainly one that is much more user-friendly than it was previously in previous iterations of these scenarios. And like I mentioned, I think that was in the main release post of the current update that is live on the public branch, that we are going to beef up the tutorial scenarios. So these are how many? 7 tutorial scenarios. I think we're going to have a few more, because the learning curve with automation is rather steep, as many of you know, and many of you probably would appreciate if you didn't have to stumble quite as much learning the game. And with that said, let's take up the little list I've made with how we are going to change the engine tutorials. Alright, here we are. This is the list of scenarios, and your first impression will probably be, whoa, that's a lot of them. Yes, 23 engine designer tutorial scenarios. But they are not quite working as previously. Let's go through the 4 sections separately so that you get an overview. and if you're running this video in a lower resolution, you may not even be seeing what is written here. But anyway, let's go through it. So first section is very simple, just a few clicks in order to get through the scenario and complete it with platinum. And all these scenarios are about making the engine run and what kind of different situations you can be in where there are faults with the engine. That would be knocking issues, RPM issues, valve floating issues, torque issues, fuel richness, and then a final one, the sixth one, is just making a blank slate engine, just from scratch, but whatever engine you wish, but without any warnings. If people are that far, then they probably will be able to be doing pretty well and learn from there. So it's a good basis. But this, of course, isn't enough. People need to learn how to optimize an engine as well. And that is what the next section is about. So tutorial scenario 7 to 13 is optimization of an engine. The first scenario is optimizing cam profile and what cam profile does overall, and unlocked are just the cam profile, compression, and the rev limiter. And then the next one is efficiency, which also is about emissions. And by the way, these scenarios are actually scored. So these are the first ones where you need to not only have no errors on the engine, but also you need to get a certain score, or there are medals for the better you do, the better it is. And then a scenario which talks about optimizing flow of the engine with the fuel system, exhaust, and so on. And then optimization of size and the over square versus under square engines and when to use what. And then there is a scenario much needed if you have ever seen people post their builds for maximum power. You will probably be looking at the time, the engineering time and manufacturing units, production units, and just facepalm usually, or double facepalm even, because it will be up in the thousands or something. And they sure need this scenario. Optimize quality. No quality spam, please, because quality needs to be used in moderation and very carefully. And then 2 scenarios on how to make turbo setups, which of course will be revamped as soon as we no longer are limited to 80s turbo tech like right now. The next scenario section is an interesting one. The only thing unlocked in there is the family tab of the engine. And you are given a few limitations, and that would be the overall capacity of the engine as well as an engineering time limit. And just with the first tab of the engine designer, you're supposed to solve the scenario, and that is by choosing a good combination of engine block configuration and head type. And that should be pretty interesting. And there are 4 scenarios. Make a compact efficient engine, a smooth luxury engine, an engine with a very high power to weight ratio, and then a rugged low revving engine for utility purposes. I think that will teach people a little bit about the different engine configurations and when to best choose what. And then we are at the final section of the tutorial section for the engine designer, and that is building archetypes of engines. And there are 6 archetypes that I think are worth highlighting, and that is the small family / economy build with a medium budget. And then we have the second one, which is a standard family car engine. Third one would be a medium-sized utility engine. Then we have a medium performance engine, which would go into a premium car or a lower-end sports car. Then we have the 5th archetype, which is the high-end supercar engine. And then we have the 6th archetype, which is a large luxury car engine. And these are completely free, and the limitations and scored stats are appropriate to the scenario itself. So these are basically full normal scenarios, but in the context of building archetypal engines. So that brings us back to the main menu, and a question to you. Second question of the day. Do you see any holes in this tutorial system currently when it's talking just about engines? One thing I need to say, which I forgot, is that the archetypal engines will all have a fake engine bay size along with them too, because there was no scenario about engine bay size or how to make an engine fit. So that is part of the archetypal engine builds. But do you guys see any kind of holes, what is not explained or what would not be explained in these various scenarios? If you see that and is any holes, then please point them out as your second point. Now let's head back into the scenarios, because this is not the only thing we are going to implement here, but there are a few more interesting things coming up, and that would be create scenario. The very basic UI structure is already here, but none of the functionality. This will be your custom scenario generator. You can make your own sets of definitions and limitations or requirements, the scored stats, and you choose them from a list, and you define how much percentage it's scored, where the thresholds are, and so on. This is still extremely barren, as you see, but there is a finished design for it. I don't have it handy right now, but it's actually looking rather pretty, and I think I've posted it on Facebook at some point. So this will allow you to make custom scenarios, and as soon as we have back workshop support, that would mean that you can share your custom scenarios with your own fun stories in here. And yeah, I think that's pretty cool. Would be good for content, never-ending flow of really cool scenarios to play. But this is not the only thing we're going to add, but rather we're also going to add an engine scenario generator. And this will be a lot of fun. I hinted at it in a previous episode, I think, and it is based on the old multiplayer mode we had, and it is a timed challenge. As you can see down here, there's game length selector, and 45 seconds to build an engine. Yep, it is as crazy as it sounds, but it was a lot of fun. And the difficulty setting up here determines how many limitations and specifications you have for the scenario, and then the engine test count is either you have infinite amounts of tests like it is currently the case when you're just playing scenarios, or you actually have to, when you press the test button, that is the only thing that performs the engine test, the actual engine test, and you only have 1, 2, or 3, that will probably 1, 3, and 5 tries to make the most out of it, and that within a time limit too, to make it harder. And if you produce an engine that actually fails on stand, you're out straight away if you select this one. So that's how the old multiplayer mode worked, which we eventually are going to bring back. It was loads of fun, especially if you're like 15 of the best players in the world in the same game and just competing for the highest score. So I'm going to ask you a third question. What more options would you like to see here? So this is a random generator which creates a scenario from scratch. Everything is randomized, but not entirely randomized, because it looks at opposing stats. So there are no impossible scenarios once we have balanced it correctly. This requires quite a bit of a rewrite since the olden days, because much has changed. But yeah, it's supposed to be working pretty soon. But anyway, so my question, third question for you to answer. What more kind of features can you think of here to make games more interesting? What kind of restrictions or whatnot can you think of for this random engine scenario generator mode? And yeah, that's all of them, and I hope you enjoyed, and see you guys next time!